Whipple Family Misadventures, Book 13, The Best and Most Beautiful Parts of Yourself, Chapter 2. It was a beautiful day and Silver was enjoying it outside, weeding the overgrown flower beds behind the house. At first, it had been difficult, as he didn't know which plants were good and which needed to be removed, but with some help from his dad and that gardening book, he was getting better. Also, something had been getting into their trash bins and he was keeping an ear toward that in case it came back. He didn't know what would go digging around in their garbage but was ready to protect their house either way. Removing his white gloves so he could use his claws, he attacked the ground, pulling up weeds and grass. Leaning down, he sniffed the dirt, enjoying how good it smelled. Plants were the best. Behind him, Shadow was stretched out on the grass, sunning himself with his eyes closed. Every now and then, Silver threw a clod of dirt at him, but his brother either didn't realize it was him throwing them or was ignoring him. The way the black and red hedgehog was just laying there was too tempting. Spotting the garden hose snaked out across the grass, Silver had an excellent idea. If he got up and walked over to turn the water on, Shadow would probably hear him and be ready for it. But if he could manage to get it from over here. As Silver's hands lit up, he first used his psychokinesis to pull the hose toward him and then squinted at the faucet. It was on the other side of the house, he could barely see it. That made it more difficult, but he was always looking for ways to challenge himself and further hone his powers. Reaching out with his psychokinesis, it took a few tries, but Silver finally managed to turn the faucet on and the water started spilling out of the hose. The sound of running water made Shadow open an eye, and quickly, the gray hedgehog turned back toward his beloved plants and began watering one of the rose bushes. A minute later, he snuck a quick look behind him and saw that Shadow had gone back to lounging with his eyes closed, and then promptly soaked him. Shadow shot up to his feet, his expression halfway between outraged and shocked.
Hey.
If Silver had been able to answer, he would have, but he was too busy doubling over, howling with laughter. It didn't last long, as a second later, he was tackled to the ground and was quickly pinned down by his shoulders.
Shadow, wait, hold on. I gotta tell you something.
The darker hedgehog looked annoyed but paused.
What?
Even if he tried, Silver couldn't stop from giggling as he used his psychokinesis to direct the stream of water directly into his brother's face.
You got something on your muzzle.
He yelled and shot off into the air when released safely out of reach. Once he stopped coughing, Shadow got to his feet, put both hands on his hips and glared up at him.
Get down here.
Nope.
Thinking he was safe, Silver stuck his tongue out at him, still giggling over his triumph. The darker hedgehog huffed and then disappeared in a flash of light. Silver frowned, turning slowly to keep the entire yard in view.
Shadow?
The word had barely left his mouth when two strong arms grabbed him from behind. Before Silver could even think about struggling or trying to use his powers to get away, he was slam-dunked face first into the ground.
Now you have something on your muzzle,
Shadow said. Sitting up, Silver spat out grass and dirt.
How did you do that? You can't hover or fly.
In front of him, Shadow shook some of the water out of his fur and quills before he answered.
Wouldn't you like to know?
I would.
Silver yelled, leaping toward him and tackling him back onto the ground. The two of them grappled for several minutes, although Silver knew it was more him fighting as hard as he could while Shadow wasn't even breathing that hard. It was difficult, as he needed to be able to concentrate to use his powers, and the darker hedgehog wasn't giving him that opportunity. Vaguely, he was aware that the ground under them was getting soggier but wasn't paying that too much attention, and was only trying to stay ahead of his much faster and stronger brother.
Guys.
The two of them froze and looked up to see their dad standing at the back door, staring at them in confusion. He was wearing his work uniform.
What are you?
Hi, Dad. When did you get home?
Silver chirped, wiggling out of Shadow's grasp.
Just a few minutes ago. Why is the hose just running?
Glancing around, Silver realized they had completely forgotten about it, and that portion of the backyard was starting to turn into a swamp, and that he was now just as wet as his brother, bits of mud and grass stuck in his fur. Their dad sighed.
Now you both need a shower.
No, we don't.
Silver gave a good shake to get as much of the gunk and water out of his fur as possible, noting with glee how some of it spattered onto his brother.
See?
You both still need to take a shower. And it needs to be quick, as we need to get that done. Plus, your worksheets before dinner.
The darker hedgehog frowned. They usually did worksheets after dinner.
It's not even close to dinner time.
The dad looked distracted as he shut off the water from the hose.
We're having an early dinner tonight, because we're gonna see the therapist tonight.
Silver exchanged a look of horror with his brother. The two of them had privately agreed not to mention anything about therapy again, in hopes that their dad would forget about it. And it hadn't even worked.
Right now, guys.
Their dad said, holding the back door open. Sulking as the earlier joy of actually getting Shadow to play with him vanished, Silver picked up his gloves and trudged inside. It didn't get any better. Once the actual showering part was over and he came out of the bathroom, his dad was waiting with that horrid metal brush.
Now, brush your fur and your quills.
Silver huffed as he really didn't think that was necessary. His fur was a little messy, but it wasn't really bad. Holding the metal brush, he tugged it through his fur a few times and then tossed it aside, ready to make his escape.
Hold it, young man.
Out of the corner of his eye, he saw his dad reach for the brush again.
You are not done. It needs to be more than that.
It's fine.
Silver insisted, his tone starting to get whiny. His dad put both hands on his shoulders and turned him around and started to tug the brush through his fur.
No, it's not. Hold still.
Why do we have to do this? Is she gonna check to make sure we're clean and brushed?
There was a sigh behind him.
Not exactly.
Then why does it matter?
Because it helps with making a good first impression.
Oh, I see.
Silver yelped as the brush yanked on a knot. The tugging decreased.
Sorry. I'm trying to be gentle. Also, I'm not taking you while you look like I'm not taking care of you. Same thing for when the social worker comes out to see us.
Is that happening soon?
Shadow asked, patting down the hallway toward them.
No, not for several months. I have to handle all the paperwork, and then it all has to be approved first.
I think you're a good dad.
He could almost hear the smile in his dad's voice.
Thanks, buddy.
His ears were gently ruffled and then the brushing stopped.
Okay, you're done. Shadow, your turn.
His brother caught the metal brush in midair and frowned at it.
I don't want to go to therapy.
I know you don't. It can be stressful going to see a therapist for the first time. But I promise this will help and will be good for everyone.
But what if I can't talk?
Then you don't have to. Neither of you have to talk to her until you feel comfortable doing so.
Their dad said, standing up. Shadow scrunched up his nose.
So we just have to sit there. Also, can you do my quills?
Their dad took the brush from him and started to straighten Shadow's quills.
Yes, you're both still coming. But if you don't want to talk to her, then I'll talk to her. All right, both of you get started on today's worksheets while I start on dinner.
From where he was standing, Silver caught his brother's eyes for a moment and then sighed. This was not going to be a fun day for either of them. Wade was trying not to visibly be a nervous wreck, but it was difficult. He knew that if he was a mess, stressed out and worrying about everything, then the boys would pick up on that and make it even worse for them. But every time he took them out of Green Hills, he worried. If they would be safe, if he would bring them back home, or if he would be returning alone. Especially since they were meeting another person who would learn their secret. Could go fine or it could end very badly. All he could do was hope for the first one. Following his GPS, he turned down the main street and went nearly to the end before he pulled into a parking lot next to a small building. So far so good.
All right, let's go in.
He said after a few deep breaths, trying to pretend like his stomach wasn't in knots. Silver started to get out of his car seat, but Shadow didn't move, only fixed him with a sad look.
My head hurts. I don't feel so good.
Taking another deep breath for patience, Wade tried not to let any frustration leak into his voice.
Does your head really hurt? Or do you just not want to go inside?
There was a short pause and then Shadow ducked his head.
I don't want her looking at my brain's health, especially if it's going to hurt.
She's not that kind of doctor. She's not going to be literally looking at your brain. We're just going to talk to her about some of the struggles that's been happening, that's it. And neither of you have to talk unless you feel comfortable. Now please, I don't want to leave you alone in the car.
For a moment, he was worried he would have to resort to bribing to get them to come inside, as he didn't want to force them either. But then thankfully, Shadow started undoing the straps of his car seat. Wade exhaled in relief.
It won't be that bad, I promise.
He said, getting out. He looked both ways, checking for other people before he let them out of the car and quickly took them inside, before anyone who happened to be walking by could see them. The second they were inside, Silver grabbed his hand tightly and didn't let go. There was a small hallway, which led to a little waiting room, lined with chairs and a single door. Thankfully, it was empty. With a sigh, Wade sat down on a chair and both boys crowded up against him. They didn't have to wait long. Just a minute later, a woman with very thick curly hair came out.
Hi, I'm Dr. Stella Palmond.
Her voice trailed off and jaw dropped open as she caught sight of the two hedgehogs next to him. Wade forced a friendly smile on his face as he stood up.
Hi, I'm Wade. This is Silver and Shadow.
He touched the top of their heads as he said their names. The therapist shut her mouth with a snap, but Wade saw the way her eyes scanned both of them, taking in their shoes and gloves to their quills and other features.
Oh my gosh, they're real. You weren't kidding.
Yeah.
I am so sorry. I thought you were either delusional or having a psychotic break when you told me your kids were not actually human. I didn't think you were actually bringing. What are they?
They're hedgehogs.
She continued to look deeply toward them.
That's incredible. Can they talk?
They can, but they're both feeling very nervous about being here and meeting you. Neither are that open to strangers at first.
Right.
Dr. Palm held open the door and beckoned.
Well, please, come in.
As soon as Wade got both of them inside and on the couch, she shut the door, heading toward her chair, facing them.
So, how about you start by filling me in on everything? What brings you all in here today?
Even though the office layout was different and it wasn't the same therapist, Wade suddenly felt like he was back in his 20s. Seeing a therapist about the stress of being at college and coming to the slow realization that he was in a loveless marriage with someone for the wrong reasons. Pushing that aside, he took a deep breath.
Before we start, I have a question of my own.
He eyed her notepad.
Therapist notes are held for how many years?
7, typically.
She cocked her head to the left.
Is that going to be a problem?
More the fact that these notes can be subpoenaed.
Wade admitted. That was the part that was especially on his mind. The fact that there would be an actual record of his kid's mental state and could be used in a court of law if it was ever found out that he had brought them here. Her expression was neutral and poised.
Yes. What do you want me to do?
Well, these notes are to help you remember, but do you need to remember that they are not human?
When she didn't say anything, he sighed.
The federal government doesn't know about them, and I'm not very eager for there to be a paper trail about them. Local authorities know about them and have assessed both of them thoroughly and have determined that neither are a danger. But I'm still worried about the men in black finding out.
That last part was technically true. He and Tom were police officers and both of them together felt that no one in the community was in any kind of danger. Dr. Palm folded her hands.
I see. I can do that, but I'm also going to warn you that I'm going to be honest with you. If I feel like I or any other human is in danger because of their presence, I'm going to make that clear.
Wade exhaled. While that was not ideal, he supposed it would be the best he could do under the circumstances.
I understand. Well, the two of them have lived with me since I found them both in February. And while things have been well, there have been a few issues in their mental health.
From the way Dr. Palm was holding her notepad, she looked almost eager for the details as she nodded encouragingly. Next to him, Silver took refuge under his arm, gazing at her silently while Shadow looked like he was zoning out, looking in the direction of his shoes.
Well, like I said, they're both 11. Silver had his birthday last month, and Shadow's birthday is next month. They are not biologically related to each other. In fact, they met each other the same time that I met both of them. It actually was a bit of a coincidence. Anyway, neither have a safe place to go back to or even a way to get back to their planet, and I decided to keep them here with me.
It was strange to talk about the two of them as if they weren't in the room, but both knew they could speak up if they wanted to.
What are they like at home?
Her buried question, "Are they always this quiet?" was heard. Wade wanted to say, "Not anywhere near this quiet." The two of them were curious, funny, loud. Currently they were nothing like they had been a few hours ago, tumbling and playing in his backyard.
They're good. It's been a bit of a learning curve for all three of us adjusting to this situation. Me being a parent and acting in that capacity. Them living with humans and adjusting to human rules and culture. I know that's been rather difficult. Both are still learning their social graces and etiquette.
She made several notes on her pad.
To you two, what do you think is the hardest part about living on this planet?
When neither responded, she gazed at the two of them a moment and then stood up, walking over to her desk to fetch something from a drawer. For a moment, Wade was worried that he would have to explain that neither could write well enough to talk about their emotions.
If you two don't feel like talking to me, would you rather draw some answers for me?
Shadow didn't even twitch, but Silver looked mildly interested, first glancing at him to check if it was okay. Using his arm, Wade gave him a gentle nudge.
Go on.
The gray hedgehog emerged from under the shelter of his arm and slid off the couch to the floor and sat down, taking the offered pieces of paper and pack of crayons, putting all of them onto the coffee table.
Okay, I'll give you 3 prompts and you draw whatever comes to mind. There's no right or wrong answer, just draw whatever you want. Okay?
When she got a nod, she continued.
I want you to draw a time you felt most safe, a time you felt most scared. And then I want you to draw a picture that describes your general emotions. Like if you were able to describe how you feel most of the time from day to day in one picture.
As Silver carefully selected a gray crayon and bent over the first piece of paper, it was difficult for Wade not to watch his every movement, to try and guess ahead of time what he was going to draw. But he didn't want to hover and instead leaned back against the cushions of the couch and glanced toward Shadow.
Do you want to draw something?
Those red eyes slowly rose to meet his gaze.
You don't have to if you don't want to, but I'd really like it if you did.
The black hedgehog didn't move at first and then slowly unfolded his arms and also slid off the couch, reaching for a piece of paper and the black crayon. Wade smiled at him, delighted that both of them were taking steps toward active participation. While it wasn't directly opening up, it was a step in the right direction.
Thank you.
Don't worry about trying to catch up. Just draw the same prompts that I said to your brother. The time that you felt most safe, least safe, and then your general emotions.
While both of them were drawing, she looked back toward him.
How have you been doing with this situation? You mentioned you're acting as a single parent.
Yes, I'm not married, nor do I have a partner. And I don't have any biological children. It's just the 3 of us. But things have been good. It has been a learning experience sometimes. And there have been ups and downs with some unique challenges, but I can say that I'm a happier and better person because of this.
And you said you're adopting them?
Yes?
She pursed her lips as she made quick notes.
How does that work?
He shrugged.
I filed for it and will be filing out the paperwork so that they legally belong to me.
All right, do you feel like you have the support you need for this? Being a parent figure to children who are not your species.
Yes, I do feel like I have the support and resources that I need to be their dad.
He was careful to stress that last part, so she knew he wasn't just acting as their guardian or a figure that took care of them, that he was their dad for better or for worse.
However, I don't feel like I am equipped to handle some of the mental health issues, which is why we're here. I don't want those things to be ignored.
That's very healthy. Silver, it looks like you're finishing up. Can I see?
The gray hedgehog hesitated but handed over his pieces of papers.
Can you tell me which one is which prompt?
That's safe. That's unsafe. And that's my feelings.
From what Wade could see, neither had a lot of art skills. The one that Silver had designated as safe was a stick figure with quills, ears and a tail next to a large blob with limbs. The one he said that was unsafe was a stick figure laying on the ground with a lot of orange and red around him. In the final picture he had drawn flowers. Lots and lots of different sized flowers. But the most interesting thing was while he had colored the flowers, he only colored half. On each flower, half of the petals had been brightly colored but the other half was solid gray.
I like these a lot. Do you want to talk about them?
Dr. Palm asked and kept her smile as Silver shook his head.
Thanks for drawing them. Shadow, did you finish?
Next to Silver, Shadow pushed his pieces of papers over. His art skills were around the same level as Silver's, just a bit more than simple scribbles. When he didn't physically answer her questions, she asked him to point to tell her which one was which. The one he designated as safe was a bed, a single head with quills laying down next to a bigger figure. The one that was unsafe was a stick figure lying stretched out while several bigger figures were towering over him. And finally, the one that indicated his general emotions was a colorful scene with lots of different figures. Near the center of the page, there was a thick black barrier, and inside it was a quilt figure, with only a little bit of the bright colors managing to inside the barrier. Wade couldn't stop staring, as he knew that he would have to ask on the way home, because he had a pretty good idea what both of them had drawn for when they both felt the most safe. Dr. Palm spent a few moments looking at each drawing.
Thank you. You two are really good artists, and I'm really glad that you were able to do this for me. I assume you don't want to talk about them either.
As soon as Shadow shook his head, she looked back at him.
Okay, that's fine. I would like to talk to you alone to finish this, plus to discuss payment.
That sounded horrifying, like he was getting called to the boss's office to be reprimanded. Getting to his feet, Wade indicated his head toward the door.
All right, they both have good hearing, so I'm going to take them to the car, and then I'll be back.
As soon as they were out of her office, the two hedgehogs seemed to almost deflate with relief.
Why does she want to talk to you without us? Is she going to say something bad?
I don't think so.
Wade said, hitting the unlock button on his car keys so they could get back into the car.
Probably just boring adult stuff. Stay in the car until I come back, okay? Then we'll go home.
Back inside, Dr. Palm was out in the waiting room.
Well, while today was a bit of a shock for me, I can see why you wanted to bring them into therapy. And I do think it's a good idea to keep bringing them back. I also wanted to let you know, and I tell all parents this, my patients of all ages need to feel safe in being able to talk to me. So if your kids tell me something and I immediately come and tell it to you, they'll probably feel like I'm tattling on them and not want to open up in the future. This can be rather hard for parents to accept since they pay for and arrange the appointments. But because of this, I won't be informing you what goes on during our sessions.
Wade swallowed, as she essentially was right. He would want to know how they were doing, and being kept in the dark would be extremely difficult, but he also saw her point.
What if it's something really important?
If it's something threatening their health, I will tell you. Otherwise, if it's something that I think you need to know, I will strongly encourage that either of them talk to you. But in the end, both will need privacy for this to be successful.
I see. Then I'd like to schedule a weekly appointment. And I'd like to be there until both feel comfortable talking to you. I promised them that no one was going to force them to talk until they wanted to.
She tucked a stray curl behind her ear.
That's very good. I'm glad you did that. And yes, I can make that work. If both are okay with it, I'd like to include you in these sessions. But that will be up to them. Now, the same time next week and payment for today.
Took a moment, as he paid her for the session, and then Dr. Palm straightened.
Thank you. And I have to say, I'm very glad that you picked me for this. This is a once-in-a-lifetime case, and I cannot be more thrilled to be working with them.
I'm glad. See you next week.
Going back to his car, he couldn't help but feel relieved. Hopefully, this would go well and wouldn't blow up in his face, and would give his boys the tools they needed to get them to a point where they were not just surviving but actually thriving.
Okay, you guys buckled and ready to go.
Wade said, slipping into the driver's seat. Both hedgehogs bobbed their heads up and down.
Are we coming back next week?
We are, but that wasn't so bad, was it? She was really happy to meet both of you and is looking forward to us coming back next week.
Wade asked as he turned the car on.
I guess.
While it wasn't bright and enthusiastic, Wade decided that he would take the small victory, one step at a time, as long as they were moving forward and not being stagnant.
Good. Now, let's go home.